Welcome, welcome. This is Mr. Business. Alrighty, it's good to have you all here. Now, let's talk about business. Alright? Covered many different topics in the past. Today we are going to cover a great topic, okay? Today's topic is the biz. Always starts with business most of the time. Alright, so it's business. Any guesses? Any guesses? Business has a life in it. Business life. Any guesses yet? Life cycle. Alright, so we've learned a lot about businesses so far. We've learned about the core of businesses, what a business is, business models, learned about a lot of other things. Right now, we're going to talk about this, the business life cycle, okay? So what do you think of when you think about a cycle? What's that mean? A lot of things cycle. A cycle is just what happens. This is how all businesses end up becoming. I mean, we have cycles all over, patterns all over through the world, and when we think about it, everything to a degree is just one big cycle and cycles within cycles. So what's the business life cycle? What do we generally see with all businesses? It's a great idea. No? Let's take a look and see if we can find this out, shall we? All right. So as you can see, we now have ourselves the start of a nice little graph here to help explain the business cycle. Let's look at the pieces here. First, we've got sales and size, okay? So as it gets bigger over here, it means the company is getting bigger and doing more sales and overall just a bigger company, okay? These are the initial stages that you will find of the business cycle, okay? You're going to have startup. That's the very first stage. You're just starting out. You got a few employees. It's usually running on razor-thin margins. People are doing extra hours of work. And you have the highest chance of failure right here is in the startup phase. Growth. Okay, this is where the business gains traction. This is where the business starts to normalize processes. People aren't working as much overtime because they finally got some things started. And things are starting to normalize somewhat. And this is where you're starting to actually see some proceeds and profits because you usually start up with a lot of debt. This is where you start paying off debt. Most of the time is in the growth phase. Of course, you often incur more debt sometimes, depending on if you grow too fast. So that's a whole other issue altogether. If you're growing too fast, then yeah, you're not going to pay off any debt. Maturity is when you get to the very top of where the business is going to reach, and you're just kind of get as much as you can from it at that point because it's at the top. It's not going to really do much more. You're just going to get as much money as you can while it's at that stage. And then you have the decline. So what does this actually look like on the graph? Let's go ahead and draw this. So startup, okay? At the start of a startup, guess what? You are just inching along, and you're not really seeing much progress. You might see a little bit of progress at the end, okay? It starts going up some. Guess what you're going to see on growth? Growth, you're going to see it continue up, and it might even start going at a much faster rate, and it's really looking good. And the problem is a lot of times people think their business is going to always be in this stage. No. You must prepare. Your business will not always be at that stage because it's going to hit what's called maturity. And when you think about maturity, it's like that's what's supposed to be at. That's where it's going to be going towards. Okay? If you notice, there's still some growth and maturity, and then it kind of plateaus a little bit. In fact, you can even have a lot of little, if I was to zoom into this, you might see a lot of little up and downs right here. And that's when people are panicking. They're like, oh, is it going to go up again? Is it done? Or what it is? And this is where a lot of panic sets in. And then you're going to see a slow end. And then you know you're in the decline phase when you see a sharp dive, okay? And it's going to keep going down. Now, if you notice, the growth phase, usually on most companies, the growth phase is a lot higher incline than the decline phase, okay? The reason why is you're usually able to prepare for the decline phase, you know it's coming, and you're able to do what you need to do so your decline isn't as bad, okay? This overall is the natural phase of business. Now, if you're a startup company, your biggest job is to keep going and just to survive. That's it. You're just trying to survive. You're trying to not get too much debt yet because you don't have revenues really coming in. Because remember, this is size and sales here on the left. In the growth part, you can incur more debt or you can decide to start paying off more of it. Just depends on how you want to grow it. But sometimes if you grow too fast, rather than reaching to this magical maturity point, you just go up here and all of a sudden you skip straight to decline. Okay? And I've seen many of businesses that do that. They're like, oh, we're growing, and we're so awesome. And then they're like, oh, wait a minute, .com bust, economy bust. Oh, we have no, oh, boom, and they're gone. That's the end of them, okay? Maturity, this is the phase that's interesting. Most people often look at businesses that are in maturity, and they always ridicule them. And they're like, why are you guys sticking with the same business model? It's not growing anymore. It's not doing anything. They know this. They know they are not growing anymore. What they want to do is get the money they can while it's that size, okay? Let me give you a great example of maturity here, okay? TV, Time Warner, cable channels, okay? All these people know the future is what? On-demand TV, Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime, all those things. That's the future. The issue is, though, there's not a lot of money people are paying yet for those services. Netflix, how much do you pay? $10 a month, okay? Does Time Warner want to go into Netflix at $10 a month? No. They want people to keep paying their money at $20, $30, $40 a month for cable. They're trying to milk the business. Their business isn't growing. It's declining. It's going down. It's getting into more of the decline phase now at this point. They're just trying to milk the money. And guess what? At some point, they will have to turn over and figure out what to do. The hardest issue you have, though, are businesses like Blockbuster of the past, Hollywood Video of the past. They got to their maturity point, and they don't understand that when you're in the maturity point, you have to figure out some way to get out of this because a decline's coming, and you got to figure out what to do. Okay? And it's really interesting when you look at this business cycle. All businesses follow this. And the thing is, if you know where you are at the business cycle, you have to change your business plan. You have to change your practice as far as what you're trying to do and how you're trying to do it. Okay? If you look at maturity right now, they're just trying to minimize costs, okay? And get as much money as they can possible. They're not looking for new things at this point. Like, the model's hit where it's going to go. We're going to have to go into another venture in a new area. But as far as this in and of itself, it's going to hit the most we're going to get out of it. During the growth phase, you can start putting more investments in as you see things going up. People get excited. Stock prices go up. A lot of things happen during the growth phase. And it's really interesting because you'll see this happen with every single business, but for some reason people are surprised when it actually happens to their business or it happens to another business out in the world, okay? Guess what? All businesses are going to go through these phases. Google at one point was a startup, and then it had crazy growth. It had an algorithm that worked better than Yahoo. All right, and then it took over, all right? And then Google right now is trying to diversify. It became Alphabet, okay? That became its parent name, and then it's trying to diversify because it knows it's going to reach maturity on a lot of its lines and has to figure out other ways to make money and use this money in this maturity phase to funnel other growth and innovation in other areas. Okay, now let's look at this model real quick. If you notice, I drew the graph and you have decline, but what happens over here? What happens? Well, we'll get to that later. Think about that. What happens after decline? What could possibly happen? Also, let's give you a good question here for you guys. If you are job hunting, okay, you all need jobs, you're going to get jobs, what company do you want to join? If you join a startup, what's life going to be like? I'm going to put it this way. You're not going to have very much security. You're going to have very low benefits. However, if you get in on the ground floor and it succeeds, life is amazing after you go through it, okay? I mean, it is terrible when it's happening because they're going to work a lot of overtime. Compensation can be very low. But what's going to happen is you're going to be on top before the growth phase hits, and you're automatically going to be up in the senior leadership, senior management positions. If you see a company that's in the growth phase, this is a really good company to go get a job at. Why? Because you no longer have to worry if it's going to make it to the degree usually. You don't have to worry about that. It's growing. It's doing well. You get the job here. Also, because it's going to continue to grow, by default, you go up a couple levels in management and leadership and importance just because you got in at a good point in the company. Now, the hardest part to get a job in, I mean, it's the safest, but also the hardest to a degree if you actually want to move up, is maturity. Okay, a business that's mature, you're not going to move up very fast by default because the company is not growing. You're going to move up through one thing only, and that's merit. You got to be good, and that's it. You're not going to get the default raise up because of senior leadership just because you were in the pyramid before the pyramid started growing, like in the growth phase, okay? Now, the other thing I'd tell you this is the worst part to ever get a job in, is in the decline phase. If you see a company going down, guess what? One way to cut costs is to cut jobs. In addition, they're just going to start getting rid of people. And a lot of times what you'll see in a decline company is this. They'll fire all the who. Who will they fire? The senior people that are not at the top. So mid-grade managers get the axe here, okay? If you're mid-grade, okay, you got your top here, okay, you got top people. They're not going to fire themselves, okay? You can't fire the bottom people because they actually do the work. Guess who's getting laid off in a decline company? But by mid, if you are mid-tier in an employment area, you are gone in the decline phase. Because the company can still operate with a top and a bottom. The mid is gone. Also, if you're a bottom, are you going to be able to make that jump to the top? No. The top's already full. There's no place for you in mid because they cut this. So if you get into a company here on the decline phase, it's going to hurt you. Guess what? They're going to say, oh yeah, last year we had a big bonus of 5% during Christmas time. Guess what? That's what's going to happen to this bonus. Gone. Holidays, less of them. Vacation time, they're going to cut back on everything. Everything's going to be cut back. And guess what? You can see this before you even go into interview. You just look at that company, look at their stock price, look at their growth, look at their business model, look at they're going to go. And if you can tell the company you're going for is in decline, oh man, you just got to be prepared to that. You better be continue interviewing. You might work there, but continue interviewing other companies, get into a company that's at least in maturity, if possible. This is the best. You're going to find the best payoff here in the growth area. That's where you're going to find it. Right here, you're going to find the best payoff to go start work here. This one just depends on how much you believe. If you believe a lot in the company, in the startup, okay, if you believed in the startup company, it's great. If you can get in a company and a startup you believe. Also, you got to be highly motivated. All right. So we've covered a lot of these phases, how it's going to affect you in jobs. Is there anything else to the business cycle? Why, yes, there is. There is. There's what I call opportunity, okay? And this is what happens. Your business is now in decline. You now have two options, okay? You can either have death, which if you decline long enough, that's what you get. You get death, okay? It just happens. Businesses die. Death is a part of the world. Or you can be like a phoenix and you get rebirth, okay? This is the unknown, unfinished part of the business cycle because we don't know if it's going to restart and you're going to be able to rebirth and you're going to find a new way to have new products or to change your products so it has new life again. And so if you're looking at the business cycle before, we looked at it and it was like this. You had your startup, you have your growth, we're going to maturity, we have decline, and then right here, we hit this big question, okay? We hit this big question mark. We put it right into here. Is your company now going to turn things around slowly? It might not get as high as it was before and have a rebirth? Or is it just going to keep on going till it's gone? And it's no more. All right? And it's just gone. It's sad. All right? He's in the ground, sad, gone. Or here, we have a chance to come back again. Okay? What determines this, do you think, in a company? What main factors determine whether a company has rebirth or death? Think about that right now. I'm giving you time. I'm not going to put the answers up on the board right now. If you're watching with another person, look at them. Ask them, what do you think are the main factors that determine if something's going to go to death or rebirth? Well, here's some. I'm not going to catch them all, obviously. One of the factors I would say is foresight, okay? Foresight. You prepared for it. Companies that don't understand the business cycle, the life business cycle, almost always are going to have death. Why? Because they think they can keep maturity forever. No. At some point, it's going to go down, and you have to have something ready, okay? Number two, I would say would be... What would number two be? What do you guys think? So yeah, you have first foresight, knowing it's going to come. Number two, I would actually put in as diversity. Diversity has a lot of meanings. It basically means having things split up amongst lots of other little pieces, okay? When we talk about diversity in culture, we're often talking about races and religions. Like, hey, do you have diversity in your company? Do you have a lot of different races? Do you have a lot of different cultures, a lot of different religions? Do you have a lot of different ideas? Do you have a lot of different things? Diversity, companies that are diverse, often figure out some way to rebirth themselves. Companies that aren't diverse don't know what to do when they hit that road because they don't have any other paths. They have no other thinking, no other ideas of how to get out of it. Okay? So first was foresight. Second was diversity. What would be the third thing? What do you guys think? Think about it for a bit. You have foresight, you have diversity. Believe it or not, the third thing I'm going to put on here, It's going to be this. You guys ready? I always let the third one take a little bit longer. People get really antsy waiting for it. Foresight, diversity, and... Okay. Oftentimes, this is what it is. It's partnering. Okay? You partner up. Partnership. Now, when you think about partnering, what does that mean? Simple. If I was, let's say, Blockbuster, and I was smart, rather than just dying off into nowhere, and I saw Netflix coming up, I would have bought them out early on. Why? Because I never know when I need something like that. And the thing is, a partnership's going to cost you a lot more the longer you wait. If you see someone who's on the uprise, but yet you have capital and you have resources such as good talent, but you're just in the wrong line of business at that point, partnership is the time to survive. That's really it. It's a survival mechanism, survival way of getting out of things. And the longer it takes you to do the partnership, the more you let the decline phase set in and the death become near, the more expensive partnership's going to be and the less you're going to get out of it as a company. So think about that. And you'll see some companies where they do it and it's basically they do it or they don't exist, and therefore the other company, guess what? They get a huge deal out of it. They're like, we know this is the end for you. We are your salvation. This is it. And because you took so long, it's now going to cost you. This is really how businesses work. This is it. Okay? Are there other ones? What else is here? I guarantee you there's more. There's a couple I can think of that I'm not going to list here in the video. I want to see what you guys put in the comment section. I want to see what you guys come up with. Talk amongst yourselves. Find out. These are the three main ones that I'm going to put down. All right. So with all of this, it's great to have you all here. It's great for the discussion we had in the business cycle. And as always, I always leave a question with you. Okay? What's the question? The question is... All right, we got it. The question is... All right, so here they are. These are the two questions. What determines death and rebirth as far as the business cycle is concerned, the life business cycle? And what signs let you know what stage... Okay, what signs let you know what stage a business is in? All right, so think about that. We talked about all the different stages. We talked about some of the signs you'll see, but there might be more signs I didn't mention. What other signs would you look for to let you know what stage a business is in? And based on that, that'll give you an idea of what business you actually want to get a job at or would like to get involved with. All right, remember, this is Mr. Business. If you got a couple minutes, you got 5 minutes, you got 10 minutes, we'll take whatever minutes you got. You can always learn business. All right, take care, everyone.